Welcome to TW Wrestling Talk. Thank you for tuning in. So I was at the mall this past weekend, in my area, and they had all these sports stands up. Every now and then they have, they just have all these, people with trading cards and plaques and all this sports memorabilia throughout the mall. And I found it interesting. I was walking, and of course, obviously, there's WWE stuff included in many of these, sports, setups here that they have. Um, and I was the first one that I actually went by. Um, it was rather interesting. It kind of goes around this big fountain and um, this thing of water, and I found it interesting. I was looking through this one area, and I see a plaque of Muhammad Ali and a couple others of other boxers in this on this particular table. Um, and then on the same display, I saw a plaque of John Cena, and and this is interestingly to the left, to the next plaque to the left. Interestingly, I don't know why, but there was next to the John Cena plaque, there was a plaque of Justin Bieber. And now what connection this had to sports whatsoever, I don't know. But I stood there and I found it interesting. Um, a Justin Bieber plaque next to a plaque of John Cena. Um, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? John Cena is you know what? It occurred to me John Cena is like the Justin Bieber of the WWE. Um, and I just think about it. I mean, I continue to see it all the time. Um, people. There's this whole thing. People either love John Cena or they hate John Cena. Yada yada yada. And I guess the same could be said with Justin Bieber. I mean, I don't know. I know for whatever reason, you know, uh, there are people out there who are in love with Justin Bieber, his music, no matter how bad it might be to some people, and um, no matter how you know unimpressive it may be, um, and it's like that with John Cena. I mean, and the fans are, I think you have to say they're relatively the same demographics, for both people. Um, John Cena, Justin Bieber, we got these women fans, these younger women fans, and the children, obviously, who don't know any better, at their younger ages. Um, and then you got people who just hate Justin Bieber, and I'm not one of, I don't hate Justin. I'm not gonna, I don't know, but I don't understand. Me here, we're talking about a guy who just used a Rush song as an introduction song. So that, I think that says enough about um, you know, what I think about Justin Bieber. Um, someone who listens to music like that, to Rush, Led Zeppelin, Floyd, all that, it darn well knows, that the how much of a shell Justin Bieber's music is. Um, if you like his music, then too bad. But the bottom line here, the point I'm making is that you know J- John Cena, this whole thing, how it's only as if certain people, um, John Cena's designed for certain people, kind of like Justin Bieber, designed for that music designed for certain people. Just like John Cena's wrestling and promos, and it couldn't be more evident this week on Raw. Um, I think. John Cena has. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand how WWE just essentially continues to ignore the real meaning behind the Cena dislike, or at least the constructive. Some people are a little overboard and extremists when it comes to John Cena. I mean, they for whatever reason they find whatever they can to rip into the guy and the character. Um, but the main problem is the character on TV. I've said that, I've acknowledged that, and many others continue to acknowledge that. Um, and the thing is with this whole John Cena character thing and his promos, this Monday on Raw was just another illustration of how John Cena's his methodology on the mic, whether WWE, no matter how much control WWE has over what he says or not, it's just so faulty. It's really it's hard to listen to at times. I mean, John Cena was out there cracking jokes, and then suddenly he gets all serious, and it just seems to make no sense whatsoever. It's like, why are you joking about this? Um, Cena. It seems like Cena was trying too hard to be funny, as he does many times, and it certainly hurt. It hurt the product in a few ways. Um, he's joking about Vicky Guerrero having a Vicky Guerrero granny panties on a pole match or whatever. I mean, that was pretty pathetic. I mean, the fact that he goes and says that, and then a second later he gets all serious. Oh, I don't care what stipulation you have. Well, then why don't you just go ahead and say that? I mean, it's like they got to tie in, this rambling on of these just pretty silly jokes. Um, and then it looks like Cena has bipolar disorder or something, and it's really not working. Um, and especially when Cena, when Ryback enters the ring, and Cena decides to, or WWE has, decides that Cena was to. Notice how I use WWE creative in that. Um, they decide to have him um, make fun of Ryback's voice, bastardize his, some of his mannerisms when he speaks, um, and not just one line or two. He goes on for like four different jokes. uh, You know, uh, I mean, maybe one was enough, if that. But they have him go on about, you know, oh, John Cena still owes me $1.60, and I'm thinking, come on,
In my opinion, that sucked.
and it really did suck, because Ryback here, a couple weeks ago, we had him on with Mick Foley, um, and it seemed like he was, beginning to break new ground in his promo and in this new character, and we need to continue. WWE needs to continue to let him break ground. Um, given that he's a heel and you have a baby face, the face of the company, as everyone seems to coin it, going out and making fun of Ryback's voice excessively, that to me it was a big mistake. You can't just bastardize how Ryback talks when we're supposed to let him make his strides right now, so that this main event push can really go full force. If you have John Cena, of all people, bastardizing Ryback's voice, overkill on it, that's not the best idea in my opinion. Um, and maybe it got a few cheap chuckles, but it didn't have me laugh, and all I was thinking was, please shut up.
I agree.
And simply because, they want to go overboard with this self-indulgent, Cena humor, if humor is what you want to call it. Um, Most of the time, it's just self-indulgent joking and goofing around that really isn't worth using in the product. Um, and again, here, as I said, we don't we want to see we just want to listen to Ryback, and we don't want to have to hear. You don't have to think about, oh, listen to how he talks. John Cena's doing, John Cena did that impression, and I can kind of see it now. We don't need that. We just need to let Ryback do his thing. Um, and we can't have these other things distracting from that. And potentially hampering what we get from what we hear from Ryback. Um, you know, this is a guy that for the past half year has been losing pay-per-view after pay-per-view match. And here he is, WWE Championship match. He's showing signs of, he just had a heel turn. He's showing signs of improvement on the mic. You know, some new promoing that he's been doing, and now we're gonna have John Cena kind of try to, put out that flame that's trying to get going here. It's trying to get cooking. Come on, we can't. WWE cannot be doing that. Um, and, it brings me back to last year around this time too, when John Cena would bastardize John Laurinaitis' voice, and it quickly turned him into a joke when it didn't need to be. Who cares? Who cares how John Laurinaitis, if he had a bit of a funny accent or whatever, like his voice was half gone. Who cares? That's him. Let him. It's another thing when a heel does, makes fun of a face's voice. That's what heels. That's more of a heel thing. Um, but and sometimes it can be a baby face thing, with The Rock. I mean, you can't. There are exceptions, but this here, that's not an exception. When you have Ryback, who's supposed to be a new big face of the company for years to come, that you're trying to build up to potentially win the WWE Championship, which would certainly help. You can't be having the guy, have his voice bastardized by the champion John Cena. Um, it just can't happen. And that's that. Same old bogus, but anyhow, after you sort through all the unnecessary Cena jokes and impressions and whatever else, you get some decent work from Ryback. Showing. I think he's getting a little more comfortable in the mic. I mean, he seemed to be a little more. I think he's realizing he doesn't have to, yell as much. Um, yell every word of his promo, like in the voice that John Cena was, sort of bastardizing. But um, he picked a stipulation to be a last man standing match. So which should be interesting. But as always, you gotta wonder, um, with this whole stupid Achilles injury angle that is just gonna just continues to sound stupid to me. Which is also another, definitely a big thing that can really hurt this build up for Ryback, if they're gonna have him win the championship or whatever. you know, Again, it would be great to see, I think, Ryback win the championship, but you got to do it, as good as you can. You can't have a stupid injury angle that is just unnecessary get in the way. And unfortunately, it seems like it's gonna continue to be in the way. Um, Now I gotta point out, something with JBL here. I mean, JBL is probably my favorite commentator as of late. in the WWE. But at one early in the show, I think like about 15 minutes in, um, the guys were talking, and JBL says, or they have him say, I don't know. JBL says, how so and so was sidelined with this. They say how he said how Kobe Bryant is out for 8 months or whatever it was. I think he's out until I think he could be out until January of next year, obviously. So it looks like he's gonna miss time for the next NBA season, but that's another discussion in of itself. Um, but he says how oh, Kobe Bryant's out now for 8 months. You know, they're saying how he has the same Achilles injury. Notice how they say Achilles injury. They don't have a definite name for it. Um, but yeah, and they say how Kobe Bryant is out for 8 months. We don't know how hurt John Cena is. And I'm thinking, well, what the heck? You just basically they just essentially said, or JBL essentially said that he's comparing John Cena as having this essentially the same injury as Kobe Bryant apparently, and somebody else he mentioned before that who I forget. And then the very next line is, we don't know how bad John Cena's hurt. And one that's a contradiction in and of itself, given that it seemed like he just compared Cena's injury as being the same thing that um, Kobe Bryant had, and two, they there's been no explanation really on this. On it's just it continues to be called an Achilles injury. Well, what Achilles injury? What can you explain
I
it a little
think
more?
somebody owes us an
I
explanation,
mean,
after all.
give me a break. I mean, they owe us an explanation. Um, you don't just keep throwing around this. Oh, he's got an Achilles injury, and what Achilles injury? It's like that's like saying going around saying like, oh, he's got a shoulder injury. What is it? A torn rotator cuff, or is it just a little sore? What is it? I mean, this is a little stupid now, and they're probably going to continue to go on, with this anonymous Achilles injury. I mean, it just sounds ridiculous. The more they say it, the more ridiculous it sounds. And if they're going to come up with an idea like this, they should have a specific thing. Otherwise, they're just, it's like they're insulting the intelligence of, fans like myself, who we just want we want legitimate content. I mean, I'm not saying, and when I say that, I'm not saying UFC style. I barely even watch UFC. But this, you can't just have this be a oh, let's do whatever kind of thing. Oh, we'll just say he has an Achilles injury. Yeah, there we go. I mean, to me, someone like me, that's a little embarrassing. I'm supposed to be deceived. Like, oh, he's got an Achilles injury, but I guess we're not supposed to know.
I'm embarrassed.
I mean, come on. Um, Other than that, I mean, I'll get off that now. I rambled on about that for almost 20 minutes, the whole John Cena thing. But it just goes to show you the kind of problems that they just seem to always build around John Cena, and it's just horrible. Um, but yeah, I mean, moving on, I said last week how Dolph Ziggler, you know, I've said in the past too how he needs to be more on his own. I mean, I'm convinced. This week on Raw, he's facing Del Rio. Del Rio's got him in the cross arm breaker, and Dolph Ziggler appears to have trouble getting out of it. And then lo and behold, look who helps him. Biggie Langston bails him out again. Just like the many, AJ Lee distracting the referee or whatever. Just like this many times that it appears Ziggler was finished, but was essentially saved by one of his cohorts, and it's bogus to me. And you got to have the guy get more. It seems like every week, every match he's involved in, there's controversy. There's somebody helping him out. There's a dirty finish or whatever. And if you're gonna build a guy, if you're gonna build this guy, truly, I mean, he's your world heavyweight champion. You can't have him win every match like this, or get away with get away from losing every time like this. It's stupid. You can't do it. Um, or else there's just no credibility to him, no credibility to his reign, and I I personally don't want to see that. I don't want to see you know match after match of our world heavyweight champion go that way, as it just really takes away from the legitimacy of the champion, and that's a problem in my eyes, especially with a talent like Dolph Ziggler. I will acknowledge, he's I definitely think he's got some potential. It just depends how WWE decides to use it, and I don't think they're using him nearly as correct, as properly as they could be. So that's that. Um, how sad is it that Chris Jericho is relegated to this dancing judge role Monday on Raw? How sad is that? I mean, come on. You have Fandango on his way to the ring, and I mean they have they have Chris Jericho, supposedly judging on a 1 to 10 scale. Um, Fandango's dance routine to the ring in between Funka Boris and Tensei, Sweet Tea Tensei, whatever they call it, like Sweet Tea. I mean, what do you? I mean, when they came up with that, they might have been having one too many Long Island iced teas or something. I mean, come on. But anyhow, I mean, it's having between those two. I don't. Two reasons to. Well, two guys who represent to me many reasons to change the channel, as as I continue to say. Um, and it this is Chris Jericho we're talking here. That's what they have for him. That's terrible in my eyes. I'm a big Chris Jericho fan. I want to see him, do some good stuff in the ring. But if you're gonna have him on do a role like that, then I don't want to see that. It kind of hurts, to see a guy like Chris Jericho do something like that. It's like like having The Rock do something like that. And then that's all you see from him on Raw. Just sit there at this glittery table in between, two of the most pointless guys on the entire roster. Um, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, WWE. Um, so I mean, yeah, no, it's not a great idea. Um, but I'll tell you what was a great idea. Of all the things, all the bad things all the mistakes that WWE seems to make, um, I mean, deliberate mistakes, I guess. You know, definitely. I mean, the Shield. Before I get to it, I mean, the Shield is normal. Looking. I mean, they didn't have as strong of opponents as they normally did tonight, as they normally do. Um, but nevertheless, obviously they were going to pick up the win, and at the end they did their attack um, on Daniel Bryan, Kane, you know, Ryback, whatever. I guess as I get back to that, with Ryback and Cena, and Ryback was pitching in a little bit there. And of course Cena comes running out, um, running out like a goofball with such an uncoordinated run, if you ask me. But he comes out and starts helping out too, and then that's where Ryback gets a hold of the steel chair, and instead of helping John Cena there, he aims for John Cena instead of uh, Roman Reigns, I believe it was, uh, and he just smacks Cena with the chair in the gut, and then smacks him with the back and everything. So Ryback looking a little strong at, I guess, at the end of this week. Um, but yeah, I mean that's that as far as that goes. They got 1 week next week, hopefully with that, no overindulgent Cena jokes, no making fun of Ryback's voice again and just bastardizing it totally. Um, Cena should be a little more serious, especially if you got an Achilles injury that's apparently so terrible, and then they're not going to tell us. They can't even come up with how bad it is, even though he can go out there and compete in the ring. Um, and if he can do that, then obviously it's not as severe as something like Kobe Bryant's injury. If which just goes to show you how much of a joke this idea is in the first place. But you know, then if apparently John Cena has this kind of injury and his title's on the line and he's facing a guy like Ryback, then he should be a lot more serious than this. I don't care. I don't care how you know what kind of jokes they can come up with, even to please the younger kids and make them laugh, and the women who just will go out and like whatever he does no matter what, unless it's a heel turn, of course, um, something along those lines. But as a baby face, like whatever the heck he does, um, it this whatever they do on Raw next week, they can't goof around. That's the bottom line. But I mean, of course, I'm sure they'll find ways as usual to have Cena continue to be this stale joke character that he continues to be. Um, but finally, I mean, the highlight of tonight, of this Monday Night Raw, and definitely the past few weeks, was by far the Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman invasion in the WWE office. And the funny thing was, the best part of the show, you know, took place early in the afternoon before the show even started. If you think about it, but if you put that in perspective, throughout the night they were showing photographs of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar and in the WWE headquarters, but I, I was glad when Paul Heyman came on via satellite and was actually then showing footage of this. I mean, this was hilarious. It just seemed to get funnier as they actually got into Triple H's office. They're riding in the elevator and they're walking around. Interestingly, Lesnar was like staring at a Rock poster, which I think perhaps foreshadows them to have a match down the road. Many are speculating WrestleMania 30. That is, of course, if The Rock does decide to wrestle again, as his future is in question a little bit as far as wrestling goes. There's a recently an interesting interview. Rock seems pretty genuine in it too. It's like well out of character, out of character, obviously, and really just like straight up. Um, like a gentleman almost, as funny as it sounds, but um, so we could see that down the road. That was an interesting point in that segment. Um, they managed to be brutal, funny, and foreshadows something like that perhaps down the road. But yeah, I mean, it just got they got into the office, and this whole time Paul Heyman is like commentating on what's going on, and it's Heyman is just hilarious to me in this whole thing. I mean, and he gets in the they get in the office, and Lesnar's just breaking the laptop. He's just bending it back, too far the other way, and taking a keyboard and doing the same against bending against the corner of the desk. Um, it's just, I gotta go back and watch it again. And again, as he's as he's tossing, a TV that's hanging on the wall to the, against the other wall, and a lamp shattering against the wall, and he's taking a sledgehammer, and he's just, he's hammering at this, supposed world heavyweight championship, and that, you have I mean, and then just Paul Heyman, perfect timing, just seems to add the right line, and it's just, I mean, this is what I sounded something like that, or
Uh-oh.
no, not that. It sounded, I mean, I sounded like that in some ways, and while I'm laughing here at this, um, and it was funny, and I'm definitely gonna go back and watch that again. Um, a few of my friends seconded that was, one of the funniest things we've seen in a while. And it's just, it's not like it was meant to be especially funny. It was just one of those things that's just natural, that was just naturally funny. If you're, not this fan that, only roots for the good guys, like, a lot of people if you're not one of those, this was hilarious, and it's just the, you know, creative touches of Paul Heyman's voice in there, and just watching Brock Lesnar destroy this office. Um, take a sledgehammer and just hammer down on the desk, and with the mallet coming off, and it's just snapping the sledgehammer. Um, and then having Paul Heyman on via satellite, putting this destroyed, dented belt, World Heavyweight Championship belt that was apparently Triple H's on his shoulder. It was just, it was hilarious stuff, and I mean, it was definitely, the highlight of the night, by far, and of course, then Triple H actually came out, and it was kind of funny how it didn't seem to bother him that his office, apparently lied in ruins after that, but um you know I mean, Triple H then, I guess, went on to say, I have two offices, and this ring is my other office, and it's kind of funny stuff, and yeah, I mean, it seemed like it didn't bother Triple H at all. I mean, but I mean, if you're the COO, you'd think in some ways that would bother you, you know, make you somewhat angry. But for whatever reason, it's that was that, and I guess it'll. I'm looking forward to this match. Now there's more of an element of unpredictability, at least compared to the WrestleMania bout between the two. Um, so, I mean, the thing is, this pay per view could be pretty darn good. Extreme Rules. Um, on paper, at least, it has potential to be pretty darn good. But a lot of the past few weeks, um, this week and last week in particular, there's been a lot of lackluster stuff. And as I've said, it just seems to be continuously the same guys, the fresh faces in the Shield, and Ryback. These fresh, relatively new faces. I mean, they've been around for months now, and so, but these guys, and then you got then when Lesnar and Heyman are on, albeit via satellite, and via Paul Heyman's camera phone, and that and what they came up with there, was awesome. And they haven't really been involved the past few weeks, and but that was sort of the saving grace of the show to me, and it's definitely something I'm going to check out again, and probably more times in the future after that. But um, so that's that. I mean, yes, I I've said earlier. I mean, there's some good, and but there's a lot of bad at times. And you know, the few weeks after WrestleMania, they seem to be on the right track. But this ever since this Cena Achilles injury thing came in, um, and the goofing around, that kind of came back, full swing this week. Stuff like that. It hurts that area of the show, and you got the recurring thing of Dolph Ziggler getting these cheap wins and never really getting a good win on his own, without the help of someone else or cheating. That you got Chris Jericho, Y2J by the wayside. Um, you got this Fandango who is just a joke. They're they're going saying how he's he's a great you know he's a great dancer. They go and say how he's a great dancer before they say how he's a great wrestler. I mean, that's to me that's a problem. I mean, it comes to your mind first that he's a better dancer than a wrestler. This is World Wrestling Entertainment, not Dancing with the Stars or World Dancing Entertainment or whatever. Uh, and then JBL, I gotta do it again, but he goes on to say how he's undefeated at WrestleMania. Well, yeah, he wrestled one freaking WrestleMania match, and and albeit, I mean, he won against Chris Jericho, but who in the world figured that he deserved um to beat Chris Jericho? Uh, I mean, I think the only person who decided that was, for the most part, Chris Jericho. Is he's always willing to put guys over, but that still, I mean, I don't, that, as big of a Y2J fan as you want to be, I mean, that just doesn't justify um, what Fandango really getting an opportunity like that, and getting a big win like that. Um, let's not forget, Jericho faced CM Punk for the WWE Championship last year at WrestleMania, so take that into consideration too. Oh, with that in mind, that's going to wrap up this edition of TW Wrestling Talk. It's a long edition of TW Wrestling Talk. Thank you for tuning in as always, and as always, I would I invite you to bring any feedback to the program, but it's definitely continued viewership of TW Wrestling Talk. So thanks for watching, and talk to you next time.